If you're running marketing operations or own a growing restaurant group, this video is for you. I recently just took a sales call with an operator of a 47 location brand. This is a successful group. They've been around for years and they're spending over $100,000 a month across Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. But pretty quickly into the call, what caught my attention is this owner mentioned that their repeat customer rate was 1.75. That means on average, each guest visits a little bit less than twice. And to be honest, even at this scale, they weren't even 100% confident in that number because they had some opportunities tracking this. But when I hear that, I immediately know the problem, which is almost every dollar that they're spending is bringing in one-time guests. And if the only lever you pull is new customer acquisition through ads, you end up shrinking margins in a business that's hard to scale long-term. I've seen this story before in other business models. I know from personal experience, spending money on my personal companies and spending over $65 million on ads for restaurants, that this can work, but it's not sustainable over the long run. And so in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how a restaurant group like this can solve the problem and start making way more money per guest. By the way, if this is your first time here, my name is Jace. I'm the co-founder of Dineline and our software company Dishio, where we share insights like this every single week. These are real strategies that we're using with restaurant groups across the country. So if you're interested in that type of content, click like, subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the curve. So like I mentioned, within the first 10 to 15 minutes of that call, it was clear is that guest repeat rate for this customer was the easiest lever to pull to move their business forward. And so here's why their current situation was such a dangerous place for the brand to be in. When your growth depends almost entirely on new customer acquisition, your margins are at the mercy of Google and Facebook's pricing. So if cost per click goes up or competition spikes, your profitability can disappear overnight. Remember, these platforms, you're bidding to serve your ads. So the truth is that this group didn't need to spend more money on ads to fix the problem. Their acquisition system was fine. What they were missing was a retention system and a way to capture the guests that were already walking through their doors and turn those visits into second, third, and fourth time visits. This brand had already also like hundreds of thousands of contacts sitting in their POS and other programs that they were a part of, but they didn't really have like a structured way to activate that data and generate repeat revenue. So that's where a system like Dishio kind of flips the script. So what we're going to focus on is we focus on maximizing revenue per guest over the entire life cycle of that customer, not just the first time visits. And so here's the thing, for a customer like this, if all they do is they just move their repeat visits from 1.75 to just 2.5, let's say, and that may not sound huge, but if you're calculating this over 47 locations, that shift represents an insane lift in lifetime value and revenue without spending an extra dollar on acquisition. So then the question becomes, how do we systematically make this happen? And that's exactly what I'm going to break down next. So the reality is that big brands like Starbucks or TGI Fridays have entire teams dedicated to understanding the nuances of their customers. They know who visits, what they order, how often they come back, and exactly how to bring them in again and again. But for most restaurant groups with 10, 20, or even 50 stores, there's usually no unified system to connect the dots. And so here's what happens is that guests walk in, they eat, and then they leave. That's it. So the restaurant doesn't capture their profiles. There's no trail of data. There's no way of following up. So when they don't have this, that's revenue leaking out the back door every single day. And so it's not just about like lost visits. You're also missing out on the chance to upsell that guest into catering, private events, and other high value offers. Because who's more likely to place $1,000 catering order with you? Somebody who's already visited your restaurant or somebody who's brand new? But if you don't have the data, you see how that kind of becomes impossible to do. So this is the exact problem that Dishio solves, and how it works is we're going to start by casting a wide net across all of your guest touch points. So this is QR code menus at the host stand, bar, and table, pixel tracking on your website. This is just a code that we placed there to allow us to capture data there, and then smart promos and digital menus that guests actually want to engage with so we can capture data there as well. So every scan, every click, those become connection points between your guest's phone and your brand. So that's the first step. And then from there, there, Dishio is going to clean and centralize that data into one simple dashboard where you can finally see who's visited, what they ordered, how often they came in, what they engaged with. Now, instead of guessing, you can actually understand your guests and market to them with precision. It's one thing to just capture customer data and another thing to know how to use it. I can't tell you the amount of restaurants that have all the data actually in the world in the back of their POS and barely know how to leverage it. So next, what I want to talk to you about is like, what do we do with this data? How are we going to use it? So here's the thing, just capturing guest data isn't enough. And most restaurants actually have tons of data, which is emails in their POS, like I said, receipts, maybe even loyalty members, but they don't know how to act on that data to drive people to the back end. So that's where we use a feature inside of Dishio called flows. Think of flows as an automated system that turns guest behavior into revenue. So what I mean by this, to make it more clear, is like, let's say someone comes in for the first time and scans a digital menu. We know it's their first time visiting, so the system can automatically send a follow-up or even a bounce back offer, let's say like 2 weeks later, right in the window where we want that to turn into a second visit, into a repeat visit. Or another example is maybe we notice a group of guests who keep ordering vegetarian dishes. Flows can automatically group those people together and send them offers or promos for new vegetarian menu items because we know that they're interested in those things. And finally, the last example that I'll give here is if we're trying to drive catering sales, we might set up a flow so that anyone who's visited once or twice starts seeing ads or emails about catering, because every action a guest takes, whether it's scanning a menu, ordering at the bar, or clicking a promotion, can trigger a smart behavior-driven follow-up. And over time, that's how you build real lifetime value without just throwing more money at ads to try to solve your problem. So let me give you a real world example. When we started working with Kiki on the river, we didn't just turn on some ads and hope for the best. We built a full guest capture system across their entire restaurant. So VIP tables at the restaurant had QR codes on it for bottle service. The dining room menus were also fully interactive. So guests were scanning and browsing right on their phones. Even the bar had its own scan to order flow. So we have all these different touch points across the restaurant. And then what we did is we layered in a Kiki at Sea giveaway, basically offering private bookings in exchange for emails and phone numbers, just as another avenue to capture more guest information. So every single touch point in that restaurant was turning into a high intent audience using Dishio. Within 90 days, this continues to build, and they captured almost 10,000 guest profiles. And then the magic happened because now that we have those guest profiles, we're able to retarget that audience with Facebook and Instagram. And I know this sounds wild, but we drove a 324x return on ad spend. And how I calculated that is based on actual value of the reservation, because these are high ticket bottle service type reservations, and tracking that how much was spent on ads. And so we ended up doing the same thing for their sister concept, Habibi, another high volume concept in Miami. It wasn't booking at quite the level that Kiki was, but we were booking reservations during their slow season for under $7 each, which the client was thrilled about. So these are single location examples, but the same system works at scale. That's why when I look at that 47 location brand, like the one I mentioned earlier, I can immediately see how much more revenue they could be unlocking just by increasing that repeat rate and getting more out of the traffic they already have. So the bottom line is this: if you're the owner, head of marketing, or ops director for a multi-location restaurant group, I want you to know that there's a better way than just pouring more money on ads and hoping for growth. Instead, the real wins are going to come from having a system that converts traffic that you already paid for, by the way, and turning every first-time guest into a repeat guest and maximizing your profit per customer. So that's exactly what Dishio does. We're going to capture that data, we're going to centralize it, and then we're going to turn it into predictable revenue over and over again. And you're going to be able to build an asset that you can continue to go back to over time to make more money. If you got value out of this video, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. We drop videos like this every single week, sharing the playbooks we use with our clients so you can take these strategies, apply them, and grow your business. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.